Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Aditya here. Today we are going to continue our comprehensive AWS course. So, previously we have discussed about AWS Lambda configurations like monitoring, tracing, and metrics. Now we are going to cover AWS Edge customization and how this AWS Edge customization related to Lambda. Okay. Now the first question arises that why edge customization came in Lambda, how they are related. Okay, we will discuss that. So, we know that we deploy our applications in specific regions, but when it comes to web applications, we use CDNs, and this application related information usually stored in Edge for faster access. So, I will explain clearly. For example, you have a website, and if you want to serve your website to multiple clients, for example, one client in US, one client in India, and another client in from England or someplace. Okay, so you deploy your content, right, your static content into a CloudFront, that is CDN. So CloudFront is an AWS service, and usually the CloudFront is nothing but is a CDN, that is content delivery network. Okay, so what it will do is it will take your content and store that content in the edge location. Why it stores in the edge location? If it stores in the edge location, if any clients want to access your website, he can quickly get your content because that edge location is located near to a client. For example, if you are accessing my website from India, okay, and the content is stored in India's related edge location. So what will happen if I access your website and it will go to the nearest edge location and fetch the information, the content from the nearest edge location. So you have a very quicker access to the website. Okay, so for that purpose we use CDNs. And why the edge customization is required now? Because sometimes we need to execute custom logic at edge before reaching to client. For example, I am accessing your website. Okay, so I am accessing from the India for a particular place. For example, I am from Andhra Pradesh. I am accessing your website. So for that, what I am doing, I am entering your website URL into my browser, and it is hitting the nearest edge location to get the content. Okay, so before giving content to me, because I am your client, what you want to do is you want to show the website in Telugu language. For example, because I am staying in Andhra, and if somebody accessing from Tamil Nadu, you can show the website language in Tamil, and somebody accessing from some Delhi or Maharashtra, you can show Hindi, right? The website language as Hindi, and somebody can prefer English also. Just I'm saying for for an example, how can you customize at edge? So for that edge location, it know what was the location the user is accessing the website. So based on that, it will add that customization to your content and deliver to the client. So for that purpose, you need edge customization. Okay, so that is what edge customization. You can do so many things. I'm just giving you some vague example. Okay, so these functions, right? Now what I'm saying, the edge customizations are nothing but a piece of code we execute at the edge location for adding customization. A piece of code for adding customization at the edge. You want to add some customization at your edge location, right? For example, Indian related users only do this certain, only see this certain content, right? So for that, based on the edge location, you can control. Okay. Now we'll see how can you achieve that, right? How can you achieve edge customization by using a edge function? You know how can you achieve an edge customization, right? By using edge function. So what is an edge customization? Why you need it? We already covered in the previous slide. So in this slide, we'll know about edge functions. We can achieve edge customization by using edge functions. So these edge functions resides in CloudFront distributions. So this edge function is nothing but a code that we write and attach to CloudFront distributions. Okay. When it comes to AWS, we have only one CDN, that is CloudFront. So this edge functions usually resides inside a CloudFront. Okay, CloudFront distributions. Okay, and this edge function is nothing but some piece of code. That's it. Okay, execute at edge nearer to the users for low latency. So as we discussed earlier, what this edge function will do, it execute that custom code at an edge location which is nearer to the user. So what will happen? User will not wait for long time. So it will provide low latency for the user. We have two types of edge functions. One is lambda at edge and another one is CloudFront function. So you have two types of edge functions, that is lambda at edge and CloudFront function. We will discuss about differences later, but just remember you have two types of edge functions. Okay, so these two types of edge functions are fully serverless, so no need to maintain servers, and also we can deploy them globally because these are needed globally because your content is delivering globally. For example, if you are using a website, you want to deliver that website globally, right? For example, Flipkart, Amazon, right? They are delivering the website to the clients globally. So in that case, you need to deploy your these edge functions globally. Okay, and the pay is per usage. So like other AWS services, most of the AWS services, you pay for what you use. That's it. Okay. And the use case of this edge function is, as we discussed, customize your CDN content. So whatever content you are delivering to your clients, you can customize based on your edge. Okay, at your edge also. You can add similar customization for all the edge locations. So you can do all this stuff, right? Customization stuff by using edge functions. And you have two types of edge functions, that is lambda at edge and CloudFront functions. So now we will see some use cases of these edge functions. Okay, so we'll see what are the use cases of edge functions. For example, you want to add some user authorization and authentication, right? Before sending to the client, you get the client request, right? At that time itself, you can do some user authentication and authorization by using these edge functions. And also you can use the dynamic web applications at edge, right? You can deploy your dynamic web applications and also user tracking and analytics and also real-time image transformation. For example, user uploaded his profile pic which is of 10 MB or 20 MB. You want to compress that image to 5 MB. You can do that. You can do that at the edge itself and store in the server. Okay. And also website security and privacy related customization and also user prioritization, right? Based on the user level or based on user priority, you can serve the information, right? So these kind of edge customizations you can do on the edge functions by using the edge functions. Now we'll see the difference between the CloudFront functions and lambda at edge, right? We have already discussed the edge function has two types. The edge function has two types, that is lambda at edge and CloudFront function. Now we are going to see what is these CloudFront functions. Okay, now when we are going to the CloudFront functions, first we will look at how it will work in real time. So in real time, we have a viewer or client, for example me accessing your website, right? So to access your website, I will hit your website URL. So my request could be considered as client request or viewer request. So once I hit your website, it will go to the CloudFront. So CloudFront nearest edge location, for example. So when it goes to CloudFront, CloudFront is responsible for sending my request to the server, that is the origin server. And here you keep an eye on the bold ones. Okay. So I am sending request to your website and your website using the CloudFront, and CloudFront is sending my request to the origin server. Okay, usually we call it as origin request. And after that, you will do some processing, for example, user authentication, and you authorize the user and send back that response to the CloudFront, and CloudFront again send that response to the viewer. So the response from the origin server, we call it as origin response, and from the CloudFront, what we are sending back to the viewer, we will call it as viewer response. Okay, so these two are in bold and these two are not in bold. Okay, so now we'll see the details of that. We'll see what is actually the meaning of CloudFront functions and how these CloudFront functions come into this picture, or where these CloudFront functions will be useful in this particular flow. Okay, so if you see these points, right, the first point is these CloudFront functions written in JavaScript. So these CloudFront functions are nothing but a JavaScript functions code, a JavaScript code. So whenever if you want to execute small logic and highly scalable, right? You want a highly scalable and also execute only a lighter weight code. At that time, CloudFront functions will be useful. These are just simple plain vanilla JavaScript code and lightweight functions and also highly scalable. So these CloudFront functions provide low latency and high performance for CDN customizations. So since these CloudFront functions are lightweight, right, because very small logic and highly scalable, they will provide low latency and also high performance for CDN customization. These functions execute logic in sub milliseconds and also handles millions of requests per second. So in this case, right, if you observe, it will execute the logic in sub milliseconds because the logic is very small and also written in plain vanilla JavaScript. So that's the reason, since the logic is very lightweight logic, right, it will execute those logics in sub milliseconds and also handles, right, since this is very less or lightweight code, it will handle millions of requests per second. And using these CloudFront functions, we can able to modify or execute logic on viewer request and viewer response. So that's why I have highlighted or bold these viewer request and viewer responses. So these CloudFront functions only customize these two things. One is viewer request and another one is viewer response. Okay, so how they will customize? So since in the CloudFront we add this CloudFront functions, what it will do is whenever we get a viewer request, it will do the customization on the viewer request and send request to the origin server. Okay, and from the origin server when we get the response, CloudFront again adds some customization logic on the viewer response and send back to the viewer. So like that, these CloudFront functions help to add customizations for these two, viewer request and viewer response. Okay, I hope you understand the point. And this was a native feature in CloudFront functions. So no need to do extra setup, just add your code in CloudFront itself. Because since we are using the CloudFront as a CDN, content delivery network, since these CloudFront functions resides inside the CloudFront feature itself, right? CloudFront service itself. No need to go for another service. It is resides inside CloudFront itself. So since it's a native feature, these functions, right? No need extra setup. You take your JavaScript code and add it in your CloudFront itself, and CloudFront is responsible for doing this customization. Okay. And now we will see what is this viewer request and viewer response. I think I have already explained you and giving you some more details. So here the viewer request is nothing but clients send their request to the CloudFront. Okay, client send this request to the CloudFront, and before sending to the origin server, we add our customization on the viewer request. So for this viewer request, we will add some customization. For example, this is this CloudFront is located in India, and whenever whoever send a request to the CloudFront edge location, what it will know is location, right? For this particular location. So what it will do is it add the language also. It add the language and send request to the origin server. Now origin server will serve the response based on the language, for example Indian language, and it send back that response. And when it sending response to the viewer also, we can add some customization. For example, Indian languages is send, and since we know the particular location, for example, Andhra, it will convert all the response to the Telugu and send that waiver response to the client. So like that, it is handling the CloudFront function handling viewer request and viewer response. Okay, that is viewer request. Now similarly, viewer response is nothing but once CloudFront receives origin response before sending to the viewer or client, we can add our customizations and send that viewer response to the client. Okay, so this origin response we take, right? And before sending this viewer response to the client, we will add customizations to this viewer response and send this response to the client. Okay, for this purpose, for lightweight, sub-milliseconds, high performance, right, CDN customizations, you can use CloudFront functions. Okay, I hope you understand the CloudFront functions. Now I am moving to the next one, that is Lambda at Edge. Now this Lambda, right? We are in the Lambda session. We are going to the Lambda's features, right? Now we are discussing about how Lambda is helpful in this edge customization. Okay, so by using Lambda at Edge. Now the same picture I am showing you, just keep a look, right? Viewer will send viewer request to the CloudFront, and after that the CloudFront will send to the origin request to the origin server, and from the origin server we'll get the origin response. CloudFront get the origin response from the CloudFront. It will send the viewer response to the client or viewer. Okay, this is the previous picture only. The only difference here, I have highlighted all the four requests and responses. So that is the advantage, right? Previously, CloudFront only able to customize viewer request and viewer response. But when it comes to Lambda, it can customize origin request and origin response also. That is the good thing about Lambda at Edge. Now we look the features here. So Lambda at Edge is nothing but Lambda functions. Okay. So previously that is a plain JavaScript function which is resides in CloudFront itself. But when it comes to Lambda at Edge, it is a Lambda function that is separate AWS service. So CloudFront has to call this Lambda function. Okay, so where we write our code in Node.js or Python. Definitely the language support is user when it comes to other AWS service, right? Because for CloudFront function, we are using the same thing, so which only supports vanilla JavaScript. But when it comes to Lambda at Edge, you will call your Lambda function, which can be written in Node.js or Python. Okay, and the next point is, since these are heavyweight logics, right? When this lambda, right? Lambda will execute some heavyweight. So even though it's a lightweight feature in AWS, when compared to the CloudFront functions, right? These are heavyweight. So it will execute more logic, right? Heavyweight logic in CloudFront. So scaling could be limited to thousands of requests per second. Definitely. So that one is millions of requests per second CloudFront function, but Lambda is only limited to the thousands of requests per second because it was a heavyweight logics, and use it to add customizations for all requests and responses of CloudFront. So you can see, right, all the requests and responses, right, both for viewer request, request, origin response, and viewer response are highlighted in bold letters because Lambda at Edge can able to customize all these requests and responses. Okay. So good thing is when we create a lambda, right? Another good thing is when we create a lambda in one region. For example, I created a lambda in US East 2, then added as a edge function in CloudFront. Then all the edge locations replicate this lambda in their locations and execute the customizations. So, for example, you created your lambda function in one region, for example, US East 1 India, and you are serving your CDN for all over world, right? In that case, what AWS will do is it will replicate your Lambda functions to all our world, right? Wherever you are serving your website, all the edge locations will have this Lambda code. So whenever some person from the other country accessing your website, all these customizations could be added, right? Could be added to your code by using this Lambda. So that was a good thing, right? The customization, the Lambda code, right? It is replicating by itself. You don't need to handle that. You just add it. You use this Lambda function as my edge function. That's it. And this edge function could be added for all the, could be replicated for the all the edge locations. Okay, I hope you understand the what is Lambda at edge and also what is the difference between the CloudFront function and Lambda at edge, right? CloudFront functions are lightweight, Lambda at edge or heavyweight processing, complex logics you can able to execute in Lambda at edge, right? And also it will scale up only thousands of requests per second when compared to CloudFront functions, which are scale up millions of requests per second. And also it will take more time. Lambda at edge will take more time, right? It execute within 5 seconds to 10 seconds. But when it comes to CloudFront functions, which are sub milliseconds, that means less than milliseconds, it will execute the code. Okay. So I hope you understand differences between the CloudFront function and Lambda and also what is CloudFront function and what is Lambda at edge. Now we'll see the use cases, right? We'll see first the CloudFront function use cases. Since it's a lightweight thing and also it could handle only fewer code, right? These are the few use cases I find out. One is the catch key normalization. So we know we use the catch keys, right, in our applications. So for that purpose, you can use uh, CloudFront functions. Transform request attributes. For example, you send a request, viewer request. In that, you will have header, cookies, query string, URL. You take all those things and create an optimal cache key for us. So for that, you can use CloudFront functions. Header manipulation. For example, you want to insert some value or you want to modify some value inside the header or you want to delete some value inside the HTTP headers. You can use CloudFront functions and you can do that, right? And also you want to do URL rewrites and redirects. In that case also you can use CloudFront functions. And request authentication and authorization. For example, you want to validate user generated token, for example GWT, to allow the users or deny the users. So in that case also you can use CloudFront functions because these are all lightweight code we can execute. And the second one is Lambda at edge use cases, right? Whenever you have logic, you want to execute that logic more than 5 to 10 seconds, right? At that case, definitely you need Lambda at the edge. You can't use CloudFront functions. And also, since it's a separate AWS service, definitely you will get adjustable CPU or memory, definitely. And the third point is your code depends on third-party libraries like AWS SDK to access other AWS services. So here you can do very hot stuff also. For example, you have customization like you call your AWS Lambda, right? And Lambda could call Q or some SNS, right? Like that you can integrate with other AWS services and do some huge big processing for your Lambda customization, right? Edge customization you can do huge processing and send back the response to the edge location, right? You can do service integrations also, right, by using this thing. And network access to use external services for processing, and also file system access since you are using Lambda, and also HTTP request access from header to body. It's not only limited to header, you can able to access the body of your HTTP request response and everything. Okay, so that's the use of Lambda at edge. I hope you understand this, and there is no hands-on session for this particular session. This is just a theory to understand how Lambda will be useful in CloudFront, right? CDN customizations at the edge locations. And thanks for watching my video. And if you like my video, like, share, and comment. And if you want to learn more stuff, let me know in the comments. Thank you.